Okay. So this probably looks pretty similar to what you've seen in past years. I did actually put together two different tables, just kind of showing this would be a worst case scenario, because we still are kind of waiting on a lot of factors. And then the other one is basically best case. So this one, we're essentially looking at, okay, we're working through their first initiative where they would select 5 courses that high schoolers can essentially take for free. And so courses haven't been decided, and I don't know that we're sure that's even going to exactly involved, but that was their plan. So we kind of selected what we assume would be the 5 courses that they would choose, and put in how that would affect our high school tuition. So this table here is basically looking at worst case enrollment, like maybe enrollment stays flat, and then you select those 5 courses that we would get high school tuition for. So then on top of that, we basically have the first column is just tuition is flat, and credit hours are based off of this year's enrollment. So then the second, third, and fourth columns are just a 5% increase, 7.5%, and a 10%. So then just at the bottom, you can see just the total number of what tuition that would generate. So
The first 15 is going to be a total fiasco if they try to implement, frankly. What I'm going to guess, and this is regions driven, it's not, the legislature doesn't want it. A lot of the high schools aren't sure they want it, because if we have to provide the classes to the high school students for gen ed and not be able to charge any tuition or fees, many colleges use qualified high school faculty to teach those courses, and that faculty member gets some adjunct pay, or at least it goes to the school. Well, that would stop. So the schools are going, oh, hell no. I think what will happen is they will agree to try one class, and looking at English Comp 1, try and see what happens. But once you open that gate, boom. It's also going to get more and more competitive to go get the high school students for gen ed. The universities are going to get very aggressive because the regionals are fighting for survival. So basically, again, I worked with Karen and Josh to say, let's figure that worst case that we're going to have to give it away. We get formula funding, but we wouldn't get the tuition and fee revenues. But we want to capture enrollment. We've got good relationships with our high schools, and even though K-State has done some of it at 383, Chris is seeing more and more of the superintendents coming back to us. So I would urge you to consider the 10% increase, because again, it's the only thing we have control of. And we're figuring it on a flat enrollment at this time, even though I think we're going to end up with a 3 to 5% increase.
Just based on your assumptions of all that, enrollment, which one of those is a break even option? Or we just inflation and then just have to do that no matter what, just to stay moving?
So one thing is we're going to be enforcing our policy in the place that we have to have at least 12 students in these classes. If it goes below that, we're not going to offer it, or it's going to be merely prorated. We've got to have that core. We used to say at 8 we would break even, but costs have gone up. You get 12 students in the class, you're probably gonna have at least 2 withdraw, get you back to 10.
Okay.
Now, to get to the next part of yours. We do not have a break even scenario here if the legislature cuts cyber and the third of base operating grant. There's no way we could make up 750,000. Let enrollment go like 20%. We're really looking at level or worse.
At 10%.
It's crazy. But again, the whole legislative action is just like Congress. Cut, cut, cut. We don't care about impact.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm taking time. I really want to understand this. If the base operating grant didn't exist, we basically have to have a 50% or 70% increase in tuition.
We wouldn't have jumped for this building without it.
Yeah.
No, we're adding plumbing in the fall. We're gonna have probably 20 to 24 students there. I anticipate industrial engineering or maintenance tech, whichever name it ends up being, we're probably gonna be in the probably 15 to 20 range.
16, yeah.
We're seeing enrollment numbers come up. Barton County's president, their new president's mad at us for being on Fort Riley. Oh, well. Highlands pulling out of Wamego, we have more opportunities. But I have to deal with, here's the reality of what we're gonna have from the state. Enrollment comes in later. This allows us to at least handle the mandatory increases with insurance, et cetera, utilities.
Did we raise tuition last year?
Fees,
Fees.
we've been alternating.
I thought. I look at just like construction technology, because I wouldn't understand the rest of them on what their costs would be in the other industries, but just us personally, 10%. We have jumped our wages well past 10% over the last year and a half.
Just to maintain good people.
To maintain good
Maintain.
people, so they're not getting poached by somebody else. Yeah, I mean,
Either way, cut off.
to get them, so. I mean, if we as a company had to pay for students and pay that difference, we would gladly, do that, so I don't see that as being unfair. I don't know necessarily what a 18-year-old kid sees as the ROI on it.
It's never, I'm not saying it couldn't hurt us, but it never has because they're going into a profession where they're gonna make good money.
Right.
The parents, the kids, whomever, they see this is an investment. You're not coming out with a liberal arts degree. No offense to the liberal arts people, I'm one of them. But if they know their kid's gonna be a welder, a nurse, whatever, this is an investment.
It's good input.
So, even looking at our highest one there, the ADN program that, their calculated costs at 38,000. What are most of our folks coming out at? Kim, 64 starting? So you're looking at about a half a year's wage for your calculated costs.
And we're seeing more of the hospitals providing scholarships and other things.
Right.
It's rare when they're paying the full cost.
And jumping up to EDP. You'll have a lineman make that in a fourth of a year.
Base pay, that's not even with.
That's that would be some,
Yeah.
that'd be travel, that'd be a traveler.
It's a good time to be a tech college and not have the word university in it.
One more question is that, I don't even know if I like this, but does everything need to go up 10%?
You can be selective.
Well, I mean, but what does that do? I mean, just to do it, waste time. Are there areas where 10% would not be
Not marketable.
marketable? And maybe that's only one or two. That's
Yeah.
really what I'm asking. Are they all marketable at 10%?
It's a good question. There is a financial aid cap on some of the programs, and some of the programs go past that cap. And the students have to pay, figure out how to pay.
How many of those do we look at? How many of those do we look at going past the cap?
Might have two on there. Auto Tech does in the first semester due to the tool cost. It's
Okay.
Extraordinarily high.
But those tools go with them. That's their tools.
Yeah.
They would have that cost if they were going into my shop to work.
And Karen,
Quality tools.
and Karen and her team have worked on spreading that cost amongst 2 semesters. For
Sure.
the students to assist some of that, but financially they are capped out at a certain point. So they would, if they received all financial aid, there would be an undue balance still due.
And to my knowledge, we've never had a student say it's too expensive. I mean, if we ever heard that, we'd work with them.
Yeah.
Dental hygiene was one, when we had that program, it's way over the cap.
It's up to $1,500 over.
Was that the auto tech? What else? You said,
Auto Tech and EPD, both are due to tool costs in the first semester.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe tool
Yes.
costs
So it's
Yeah.
not the same. Okay, thanks, that answers my question.
So, yeah. I know when I went through, those tools were mine when I left school.
And you know, if you all don't think 10%'s enough.
Yeah, but I don't want to put us out of the market.
Say it.
And so, you know, this is a tough discussion for us, and I'm sure this is being a tough discussion right now for the other 6 technical colleges.
The universities can't raise their tuition and fees without regents' approval.
Right.
Community colleges use their boards as well. But yeah, for the 7 of us, the only thing we control.
Where are we in comparison to some of the other tech schools?
I think we're 3rd from the top out of the 7.
So we're not priced out of the market.
Success rate, job placement rate.
But but I don't think you're gonna see like somebody from this region. Oh, you know, oh, MATC is too expensive, so I'm gonna travel
I'm gonna go
3
to,
counties over.
I'm gonna go to Hayes.
Right.
Yeah.
Pick on Goodland this time.
Stop.
Students trying to get in nursing, they apply to every friggin' college that has nursing trying to get in.
Sure.
But otherwise, yeah, it's not been a factor.
Is the discussion tonight just to test the waters? If you are gonna have some feedback in a month?
No, we really need a decision so we can get it set. Because we have students enrolling for the fall.
Okay.
It's financial aid.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's say the legislature restores all our funding, great, then we have a little more capital to work with.
And our fees that we charge cover our cybersecurity.
We have institutional fees and we have program fees.
Okay.
You want to jump on institutional?
It's, they're covering what we have, it's tight. But yeah, we're in an okay place on for
Okay.
now. We're also kind of relooking at all of our softwares, all of our services from the top down, just to see if we can streamline anything and make some savings there too. But yeah, no, we're in an okay place there.
Okay.
Especially if enrollment, as we think is gonna happen, we get plumbing online and some of these coming in, that will really help with.
And we've used the cyber funds to upgrade everything in that area where, again, you can't ever guarantee, but we're in as good a shape as we can be.
Yeah, so with the cyber funding, we've done a lot of upgrades, a lot of things that don't have recurring yearly costs, so we're not absorbing much there. Upgraded a lot of equipment, things that need to be done.
Will there be a major impact on us with the change on the testing sites and state and things like that, that'll really bump our
So
fees section of this?
testing center has a fee structure because
Okay.
we test what we're, place charges and then we charge about that. But it's a very good point you bring up because we are seeing a significant increase in people. The testing center and our capacity. We were gonna talk about this later with facilities, but we'll hit it now real quick. We met with Dan from BBN, Josh and Andrew. To look at what would it take to renovate existing teaching and learning center. Move some people around, expand space there, and move the testing center in there. So that's kind of our first priority to look at what those renovations cost. What can we do in terms of more capacity? We know that our testing centers will be more critical than ever. Our second priority will be to replace the elevator over in the main building that lifts people between the floors because of the design of the building, because that elevator is a piece of. For instance, my daughter can't get in it with her wheelchair. Fix that, not just for student access, but to be in compliance with ADA. But it also saves us money in the long run as far as renovations to that building. Third thing we're looking at is existing nursing space. Kim, your ears open. And how we could redesign, renovate that existing space to do more with nursing. The community, especially the chamber, is looking at us hard with construction and related trades for the housing and commercial construction and healthcare. The Community Health Foundation, via Christie's Foundation, has indicated they will provide the healthcare extra monies that we requested through GMCF. Community Health Foundation is going to pick that up for year 2. So that helped. So, they've been looking at, we're pretty caught up on most capital outlay projects. So the capital outlay funding we get, we can take a look at, let's start with the TLC.
Okay.
Then we do the elevator, then we do the other renovation. The building in the corner of the property is on hold because everything's changing so fast. What do we need? We may need more parking. I know we need more parking. These fees don't affect the testing center, but we're definitely ratcheting up to have more capacity in the testing center, which brings in more revenue for that area.
Yeah, and that building is our next, our furthest one gone, that the next space we really need to do something with. It's just nickel and diming it to death, cracks and it just, it's in the roughest shape. So that's definitely the next area we need to kind of really focus on.
We have utility connections there, so we could consider what could we build there. This gives us a chance to at least keep up with the mandatory cost increases we are seeing.
In knowing what our potential costs are for especially insurance, because that's such an unknown, I would look for a motion for a 10% increase. It's been
Second.
moved. Thanks, Stephanie. It's
Yep.
been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. 10%.
Thank you. Never easy, but
Well, I'm just glad we can have the discussion.
no other finance reports due this month, so we'll turn it over to Brian, President.
Brian, you have 2 minutes.
Final 2, right?
Final
Actually, we didn't have a whole lot this time because I was asking Rachel and she said she didn't get a whole lot. I got some with Chelsea being out on maternity leave. The faculty want to thank Kim for taking over the nutrition class. Also, Matt has taken over the GED class, the science side of it. So yeah, just kind of, again, people stepping up where we need it. I was talking with Darren tonight and he said that the TLC is actually from here on to the end of the semester running resume workshops for students. So that's one of the things that he's kind of implemented in and he wants to start doing more of, especially during in-service and stuff like that, is having those resume workshops. Even the GED students, we worked with them on their soft skills, and that was one of the things that we did, or I should say Rachel did, was she worked on their resumes and building their resumes. So, with the way everything's going now, I mean, people need jobs, so we've definitely been working a lot with that.
We keeping a good number of students in that section, in doing that resume building and
Well, it's just it's
soft skills.
just come and go. We're kind of putting the soft skills on hold just because this semester, honestly, the GED has been pretty low on attendance. As opposed to, I was kind of surprised this semester's probably been as low as we've had. But then like today, I've had more contact with Neosho, so I've been working with them. And I know that the other day they had one of the Neosho students pass the test. She had been there for almost 2 years. And she said she thanked me because she said she started understanding it. They got 2 new students in 2 weeks or a week before spring break. I got an email from them asking if they could have more material to work on because they liked the way I taught and they wanted more stuff to do. And even though Neosho didn't have school today, those two students got on Zoom and zoomed into our classes. So even though it is low enrollment, we are still having success across the state. And then this coming weekend, Chris and I will be going down to Dallas and we'll be going to a national conference down there. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting some of the experience from other states, figuring out what they're doing, implementing that where we can. Then the evening ESL students was brought up that they're doing a great job, working really hard. Rachel wants to say before break, they played a bingo game where their unit vocabulary, where they had unit vocabulary and built sentences by drawing, what the subject, verb, and all, time was. And I guess she says it's been phenomenal what they've been doing at nights. And again, that's not like 4 PM. That's what, 6:30 is when that class starts. So, kudos to the teachers and stuff that are doing that because they're here from 6:30 till 8. So
That section hasn't grown. I think we have an orientation tonight, and I think there's 14 more students joining already, about 21 students. This is a huge section that's helping out a lot of our folks work at Manco, Florence, and they do the day shift. So having the evening class for ESL has been a huge help.
So we do have Florence tied into that now.
Question from how many people, I came in and had my certificate here. And I wanted to work for you. Do I give you a resume or do you have something else to do?
No, we would prefer yes to have a resume, but that's not
Well,
necessarily.
yes, because there are some businesses around that I work with and they don't. They develop their own questionnaire and they don't want the resume. So I'm just wondering if that's just the ones I happen to work with, or are they, and that's all, or is that a trend? Because if it is, I just wonder, that the value, is that the place we want to put things and use that value?
I may not be the best person to answer that just because I'm a little older in my ways on that. No, I think that just shows an individual that has initiative and is out there trying to do it.
Class, anyway, should form. I just want to make sure we're not teaching something that people don't use much anymore.
I know with my wife, she's a manager at Walmart, e-commerce, the big distribution plant in Topeka, and they definitely look at the resumes.
Okay, good enough.
And actually, my son, when he interviewed there, he had taken, MATC courses and he had taken the global employment class here. And I told Mr. York afterward, I said, after they did that, even though, my wife is the mom, they went to her and said, he was the best interviewer we've ever had. And he scored the highest on the actual test that they've ever had. So, and he had a good resume and stuff like that, because my wife's like, you need a resume, so. But yes, I see your point. I know some of them are kind of going away from it a little bit, but I think especially like our GED program and stuff like that, they need everything they can get. Because I had the feedback I got from the students that were there said that was one of the most productive classes they'd ever had. Because they understood, okay, they understood their worth. I think that in and of itself was almost as much as the resume, because when we said it, they're like, oh, well, we just scanned items. Well, no, you were doing inventory, doing this, and they're like, oh, I get, I think it helped, when they go to their interviews, and then they can see what their worth is to a company.
I can even say as a hiring manager for seasonal employees, if I have somebody that doesn't put insert a resume with their application, that they're gonna get considered, but I'm looking for the details that
I'm
come
good.
out in the resume.
I'm good. Just ask, because I know there's some that aren't.
Oh, yeah, I understand that, Bob's Mechanic Shop. Yeah, you can turn a wrench and you can be on time, you're hired.
And then one of the final things I was gonna mention is we had if you saw on Facebook, we had the students that came in during spring break. And I was surprised I had a decent amount. One was during the day when we had the snow, and that's when the picture was taken. Well, one of the students that's on the picture is actually interviewed for full-time tutoring. And I think she will probably be one of the best tutoring people we've ever had. Phenomenal student. Actually, when we went to the Capitol, she taught my class, my GED class for me while I was gone. Didn't get paid for it, didn't do nothing. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And did a phenomenal job. It's nice to still have those students, I think, coming out of COVID that are now still wanting that ability to study, wanting to learn. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more of a uprising of that where, before it's like, they just want to stay home. So we're starting to get them back and they're wanting to come in, and that student actually came in that day that it was snowing and she didn't have anything to do. She's like, well, I'll just come in to come help. So it's nice to have, I'll just say that. Any questions? Look at that, minute and a half.
Yeah.
You kept it under double digits.
Slow clock.
Every,
A lot of timeouts.
every minute moves a second.
Yeah.
1-4-2 back.
Partnerships and outreach, Mr. Buckford.
Yes, so officially on here, so we've got our service marks, these were approved by the state. Our existing service mark, of course, was our Mobius, scroll down just a little bit more. We submitted these as our new requests of providing higher education, building higher education. Our tech font that you see on the side of our building, and then Tech Plus. It's just good to have these. It obviously builds in the legitimacy to everything we do, some intellectual property, just kind of make sure that we have all these things. And then, of course, if anyone tries to use these things, there could be some legal recourse, but that way we don't cause any confusion if someone else launches a building higher. That's all. Any questions on service marks? I just want to provide that to you all, that we have that. And in terms of partnerships and outreach, there are quite a few things that are happening that are just at this moment aren't public. They're going to be public soon, but just know that MATC is working very closely with a lot of folks that are looking at Manhattan and the Wamego areas. And then, as Jim mentioned earlier, our marketing is working very well with Fort Riley. And if you read the article about Highland moving out of Wamego, we are marketing aggressively, and it's working. Fort Riley, the General Garrison Commander, very happy with us. They're very impressed by what we were able to put out. Yesterday, we started our 8-week welding program and we doubled enrollment. We had 2, now we have 4. But it's working. It's transitioning soldiers. We have 1 veteran, and then we actually stole a student from Kansas City Community College who was going to start their welding program this fall. And he came over to Manhattan, and he has access to the base, so he will complete that. And those students will walk at Fort Riley's graduation on May 16th and our graduation on May 7th. Very exciting.
The brass is happy, it's a good day.
Keep Garrison happy.
I talk to the Garrison Commander at least 3 times a week, so let me, no, not about business.
Look at, that's how you do it quickly, Brian.
Longer than I did.
Facilities, anything else?
Yeah, I think we covered it unless there's any questions about
I did see a payment for,
drainage.
for maybe some HVAC work or something from TCA.
Yep, yeah, we had some, the heat exchangers, units of one of the ATC. And another unit on the west side. That just through that real cold snap spell had some issues, so
Okay.
we had to come up with some. Had some parts issues, took some time to get some parts in, so we had some space heaters going and different things to get by, but everything's addressed and fixed now in good shape.
And from last month, we were discussing the upgrades. Is that some of those targeted units?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
On academics. Does anybody want to take the lead on Cengage, not Brian, or do you want me to just?
Brian.
Okay. So Cengage is a publishing company that many of our programs do use. Not everybody, they don't have anything really that works for healthcare for Kim's area and a few other areas. But they've been very good to work with. They've done some professional development workshops, come here and done something with our faculty, adjuncts. And they provided us with a proposal where we can do their license so that all employees and all students have access to their entire ebook library. Everything. Sounds too good to be true, but we've checked things out. And the staff, the admin staff here came up with a great idea. When we had the Title III grant, we had the endowment challenge with it, and that's been adding money into that account with the GMCF for years. So the initial investment to do this package with Cengage can come from that, but then the crew designed a process where students and programs, let me rephrase it. High schools.
Woke you up.
Where's the AED at?
Grammar police on me. Anything. If the textbook comes from Cengage, high school students will not pay anything. Our other students will be charged $100 book fee a semester. But that covers any Cengage book they want to use. Doesn't help nursing, sorry. Anybody else we're exempting?
No,
I think that takes
EPD?
They're included.
they could use it if they wanted. Yeah.
MLT.
Well, MLT is part of healthcare, so. Outside of healthcare. Students will only have $100 charge a semester for all their books. Now, if they want to buy a print book, they'll have to buy that, but as far as ebooks.
Well, okay, but
They
it's.
can rent it from
They
Cengage.
can rent it if they want to. What we did with this is we also included all the programs that, so EPD, their book isn't available through Cengage. We're gonna buy those books and have them on campus, so even if the program doesn't use Cengage, the students will have their books on campus for that flat $100 a semester. And this saves the students, instead of going out and buying $400, $500 a textbook, it's gonna be $200 a year.
And what will it cost us to administer this? Will that $100 fee administer this?
Yeah, short answer, yes, but.
First year, we got a few things to work through, but yes, and that $100 fee then replenishes the contract to do this each year. It also extends access to all of our adult ed students and adult ed staff.
And Jim mentioned the high school students, any of those classes, if it truly comes down to K-State's free, we're free. We have the advantage because we can say, yes, our class is free, our textbooks. You're not going to give it all your textbook. That's our benefit.
And so we'll have the upfront, the cost to get the license in, and then as the students roll in, they'll essentially pay that back and then make it sustainable for year after year.
So the hard copy of the books.
Would still have to be,
We don't have to buy them. And, but if we don't get them back, do we turn around and bill the student?
The student keeps the book. It's just like.
Even the high school students that aren't paying for
very
it?
few are getting
Yeah.
hard.
I'm just making sure.
There's very few. We figured in that everyone will be using Cengage or some kind of digital license.
Okay.
Do the classes already use Cengage materials?
Many.
A lot of them do.
So they wouldn't be required to restructure the courses in any way.
Right, there's no like academic changes for them. They're already utilizing it.
Okay,
To the instructor, there's no change.
okay.
It's just literally how the students pay for it. And
covers non-Cengage too.
Yes.
Right?
Right, except healthcare.
Yeah, I got, you see the exception.
Ryan has been a proponent for Cengage, but he did a survey with faculty. Before we would move on this, I want to know what faculty thought. Do you want to discuss that briefly?
Briefly. For the most part, most faculty. The gen eds, almost all gen eds are gonna go to it. It will take a lot of time on the front end, but again, kind of like with everything else, the back end will be nice because we just roll it over every semester. We did have one instructor in a program that he was maybe gonna parallel it with what he uses to see how much better his students do on the certification test versus the other programs. So we have faculty that are buying in. Some are gonna kind of ease their way in, do a couple of pilots and then work their way in. I actually had sent it to Carrie and Chris today. Pearson they're gonna get rid of one of my books and make me get a new book. So kind of going off that cost, my students were paying about $180 for an access book per semester. And with everything with the state changing, I have access to the whole library. Another thing with the books they're talking about with EPD, if I remember right from the in-service, is that they can pull material from separate books and put it all into one. So it doesn't have to be just one book. They can pull pieces from like 10 books, put them into it. I think it's like $20, $15-20. So I think that's going to be beneficial because every instructor can go through their whole library, pick pieces out of books, put it into one book, give it to their students.
To build their course.
And that was actually actually Justin had talked about, EPD had talked about using part of it. Welding really liked it. That was that.
They're already using it.
They were using it and they've worked with, so one of the things that Cengage does also is any instructor can get help building their course. How many hours do they spend with them?
Oh, I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
and no charge. All we did is, and literally today, they texted me. So as far as like, you know, if you need access, I can call her right now and she would answer.
That's already built into their fee structure, that support module.
And the upgrades.
So has there been any, excuse me, any analysis of how that reduction in book costs would offset the increase of tuition hours, tuition costs that we just voted on?
Not so much there. What we did more of an analysis, which reduces book costs for students.
Okay.
So-
So about how much would it reduce a typical student?
Depends on the program,
Yeah.
like Brian just mentioned, so his book alone was $185, but if that student is in.
For one class?
Yeah.
If they're in.
Not for one
a-
class.
It's another $250 on top of
If
that.
they're taking maths classes, it's like $150. And then Rachel uses open resources for English. Now she can use supplementary, which will save her grading time.
Mhm.
Cause she said she would like to use a book, but she can't because of the cost.
Sure.
I would say outside of healthcare, most students are gonna have a savings of probably $300 to $400 a semester.
Wow.
One thing I will say for the faculty, this is probably one of the biggest things. For my students, they will have the access code the first day. That's our biggest hurdle right now with our students is I've got high schoolers just getting their access code now because their parents got enough money to pay for it.
On the Pearson side.
Yeah, whereas they would have a first day and the instructor can start teaching. Some classes, it takes 2 or 3 classes before they can actually start teaching because they don't have access codes.
I consulted with Laura with financial aid. This is easier for her actually when she was pending.
It saves staff hours. We also have a contract with eCampus that's coming up and we can look to
Let that go.
let that go so we can have our own books stored here.
Are they able to take? I mean, I'm guessing this is on a tablet or you download it or whatever. They can take it after graduation. There's not gonna be any downloading issues.
They would need to do PDFs and stuff if they want to keep it. They have access for a year. So if they do graduate in May, they would have it until that August. So the instructors would have to do that. That is the benefit of it. If they have a physical book, they would keep that.
But the books change so often as far as content.
Mhm.
and there's like some handbooks or some field guides or something that, yeah, like Chris said, they can download it as a PDF. They can keep it for themselves.
A lot of our instructors, correct me if I'm wrong, they already pull out a lot of the PDFs and stuff and put it in the campus shells, so they're already kind of separated for ease.
It is integratable into Canvas. You can pull any videos.
That was gonna be my
Canvas.
question, next question, how will it work with Canvas?
It works beautifully as Canvas, so.
So this really doesn't cost us anything. We have it on a cost recovery thing. Started with all.
Sounds like a good move.
Next up,
Do we have to do anything with that or we that? Yeah.
There's no action required.
They were gonna do it with or without us, John.
always discussing, how can we do it without you? The next item, holy crap, Batman, last week I get an email from Karen Goose at K-State. Here's the signed agreement, sign it, send it back when you can. 10 years later, after I started this, we have our first collaborative agreement with K-State in the books. So Neil and others will be working with K-State to implement. We'll work on some marketing that will probably start spring of 26. K-State can't move any quicker. I don't mean that bad, they're a lot bigger. This really is designed to help students who aren't fully admissible to K-State co-enroll with us, take classes with us, one at K-State, live at K-State. So it's a win-win for everybody. It helps their enrollment, our enrollment. But we'll work on some good PR. That's step one. Step two, at their request, we'll be looking at what's called a second chance agreement. So if they've got somebody washing out, how can we get them here and try and save them? And then part three is an applied bachelor's degree in a couple of different areas. So
I've, just something you want to think about. Honestly, to highlight it. I'm surprised, so this document's been around for a little bit. Because with Kansas State, they have gone through and taken out things like anti-discrimination. So we want to be a little careful.
Yeah.
We may need to somehow get a pen and ink or something that says that's been taken out to cover everybody in case federal money gets to be involved. Just a thought.
it's a good thought.
I don't like that, but that's the world we're in. So you might want to have somebody, or they have somebody go back through this and make sure that all that stuff is in an inked and then, I mean, crossed out and you or he or whoever signed it and initial those go.
Best guess working with them is we'll probably have 15 to 20 students.
Why are you so pessimistic? I don't want to say pessimistic, but why do you think that?
They are, I think,
That's what they have said.
because they've seen an increase in students fully qualified for. I mean, again, that's their first priority. It'll really depend upon how they want to drive their enrollment.
Will we ever approach that? We talked about it one time where like an engineer would come over here and take one course so that they understood when they walked out in their job and what that piece of equipment actually is. Not that they would be able to work on it, but was that ever going to be part of it?
Provost and I have discussed some things like that. More open to it than his predecessors have been. Right now, they're fighting. I mean, they lost 2 more federal grants last night.
Discrimination out of there.
Well, having just been trained in 3010, the anti-discrimination is the ones that have been in place for years, the age, the sex, race, all that.
It's the pre-Biden administration.
It's a pre-Biden anti-discrimination.
That's what we've been advised. We're part of a group called ATIXA, Title IX. And Neil keeps up on that, but it's basically, if you go back to the pre-Biden, you're safe. We'll see.
Be careful.
Yeah, I just sat through 4.5 hours of that.
But we have an agreement of collaboration, not affiliation.
We don't get to vote on that either. We have too many things. Don't have enough.
The monitoring report, you have my report. The testimony I've given, Manhattan Mercury ran an article about Riley County Health Department changes, and then below in that article, Aaron Sullivan's talking how great we are from the chambers. Have that. You have the same charts we showed earlier on the CTE position, funding. State appropriations plus then for the community colleges, the property tax. One of our board members asked a very good question shortly after our last board meeting to me about, can you get some more information about how Harry works with me, with us? Because what you only get in my report is a few of the meetings. And Harry and I meet almost weekly for sure. A lot of other things. So I asked Harry to provide some input. And so the document you received tonight is to give you some background on everything Harry does that people don't see. Some of you'd see it, if you're around him during. COVID. But he and I both thought it's pretty important for you to have a clear picture. His background, his, the knowing people, definitely helped us raise some funds. We're working on a lot of that. Of course, right now, we're waiting to see what does the legislature do. What do the feds end up doing? We have Pam working on more Patterson grants. Patterson notified us they have some new grant competitions coming up, so we're gonna work on that later this week. See what else we can go for with them. On the grant side, we're gonna look more at private and corporate grants because the federal stuff is too shaky. That way you got some background you may not know on Harry and how he works with us. Important for you to have. Harry, you may want to add? I think it well. You definitely, I mean, all these guys are going to attend meetings that I can't attend. Next week, I'm going to be out the first part of the week in St. Charles, Missouri area because my older daughter is having part 2 of some breast cancer surgery. They caught everything soon, but I'm going to be there for that. Get back from that, go to Chicago for accreditation meetings, get back from that, go to Nashville DC meetings that I'm on a commission for. But like next Tuesday night, the city commission is going to hear a proposal from the chamber on potential new business. He's been involved with it from day one. David, that worked with him. So we'll make sure we have a rep at the meeting that can address any questions that may come. After our meeting tonight, I'm going down to the city commission because the growth plan is being presented to the city.
That's just kind of off the subject, but on that subject, how many other sites are they looking at, do you know?
I heard at least 4, but one included Caterpillar, but they wanted to come here no matter what. That's, I mean, it's not a done deal, but it's definitely leaning towards the one that was discussed today going into Pat.
Quite a substantial square footage difference.
Supposedly Caterpillar will make an announcement, we're guessing within 60 to 90 days. They've accepted one of the offers. And there's probably another 4 to 5 businesses on the Eco Devo in the chamber that are involved with